Why is the new Fable game getting such a negative reception? We've only had 3 trailers of the game so far, and no real gameplay has been shown. Now, this is my first thought as to why people are not happy with Fable at the moment. There's no real gameplay in any of the trailers, but there are a few other issues that people have taken with it, not necessarily issues that I have with it, that we will discuss in the video. So first of all, it's too vague. Nobody really knows what the game is about, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you don't want to give everything away in the trailers, but people aren't even really sure what they're going for with this game, and that point kind of ties into the lack of gameplay that's been shown. Now, back in the day, I was a huge fan of Fable. I still am, but not as invested as I once was when I was younger, because we haven't really had any new Fable games until now. I absolutely adored Fable The Lost Chapters and Fable 2 when I was younger, and Fable 3 not so much. But what those games were known for is their very British, very witty, sarcastic humour, and these trailers do have that, so it feels as though the tone is very much there. So if you're looking for that from Fable, you're definitely going to be pleased in that regard. But aside from this British sarcastic humour, we don't really know anything else about the game at all, really, which has a lot of people scratching their heads because the trailers we've been shown are these sort of like character interviews with presumably characters that will be in the story in the game. But even then, it's not really much to go off of at all. Okay, so this next point is an interesting one because it's actually the art direction of the game. Now, while the game does look incredibly impressive with beautiful lighting and very high resolution textures, at least from what we see in the trailer, it looks as though the game is going for a much more realistic look, which has disappointed people. If you look at the previous Fable games, they all have a very cartoonish, heavily exaggerated art style in the environments and in the characters. So I can get why people might be disappointed with the game going for a much more realistic look, because it can lose a lot of that personality that the original Fable games had. I actually think that the old Fable games have aged pretty well in regards to their art direction as well. I really like the heavily exaggerated character models and how whimsical and cartoonish the games look. That was a huge part of Fable's personality, and that might be lost here, which is concerning to people. Now for this next point, I have kind of mixed views on this. People have been wondering if they'll be able to create their own character. You were never able to actually create your own character in the previous Fable games. You were giving a preset male or female character, in Fable 2 and 3, a female character as well, and you customize that preset character that you're given. It's obviously pretty early to say, but it looks as though we will be playing as a preset, predetermined character in this game as well, which I'm completely fine with because as someone who is very familiar with the Fable series, this has always been the case where we've been given a character to customize. So it honestly wouldn't be too surprising if we do not create our own character. I know some people would like the option of that, but if we're not given that option, I don't really see that as a negative thing. The character is also voiced, as we can hear in the trailers, which again might be disappointing to people, as with the previous Fable games, it was only Fable 3 in which we had a voiced protagonist. So I'm just going to give my 2 cents. The very small amount of gameplay we have been shown looks as though the combat could be super fun. There's barely enough of it to tell, but it looks kind of neat. Fable 2 and 3 have this one-button combat system, as Peter Molyneux used to call it, where the X button was used for melee, and then the Y button was used for ranged attacks, and the B button was used for magic attacks, and you could kind of mix and match these together, and it was really fluid, it was really cool. I don't know if they're going to try that sort of combat system again with this game. I think it would be very welcome if they did. I'm not overly sold on the realistic looking characters in the game, I will say, but I do think that the game looks beautiful despite that. A lot of people appear to have written the game off already, and they are speaking about it very negatively already, but me personally, I don't think that we've seen enough of it to even really form an opinion of it, which isn't necessarily the people's fault. That's more so the game's fault in how it's been displayed and how it's been portrayed to us. We haven't seen enough of it. I'm definitely going to be getting the new Fable game. It releases next year, but I will say it's difficult to be hyped or excited when I don't really know what we're going to be getting. It's been over a decade since Fable 3, so finally getting a new Fable game in of itself is amazing to actually get a new Fable game, but because of the fact that we haven't seen much of it, I don't have the hype for it that I know that I should. Playground Games are the developers of this new Fable game, as Lionhead Studios were shut down a very long time ago now, and Peter Molyneux, the game's original lead director and designer, is not involved with this Fable game in any way whatsoever. So I do think that the game is going to feel very different. I think it'll play differently and have a lot of different kind of design elements to it, because Peter Molyneux is not involved with this game in any way, shape or form. So I think people should also know that going in. More than anything, I would love to just see a real gameplay trailer of the game, like some solid actual gameplay. There are small snippets in the trailers of the combat in the game, and like I said earlier, it looks kind of neat, but there's not much to go off of in regards to the gameplay. So what are your thoughts on the new Fable game? Please let me know in the comments below, we can have a discussion. I'll be picking the game up, but as I say, it's difficult to know what we'll be getting. That's all from me for today. Peace out.